When you think of Britain's greatest leader, one name probably pops into your head: Winston Churchill. The cigar, the V for victory sign, the bulldog spirit that saw Britain through its darkest hour. He's a giant of history, no doubt about it. But what if I told you that another leader from a completely different era had an even more profound, long-lasting impact on the Britain we know today? A leader whose reforms laid the groundwork for modern British society, but whose name is often overshadowed. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on Clement Attlee, the quiet, unassuming prime minister who took power right after Churchill in 1945. Imagine the scene. World War II is over. Cities are in ruins, the nation is exhausted, and the treasury is nearly empty. Churchill, the war hero, expects to cruise to an easy election victory. But the British people, weary of war, voted for something else. They voted for a new beginning. They voted for Labour and for its mild-mannered leader, Clement Attlee. Attlee was the absolute opposite of Churchill. He was shy, concise, and famously described as a modest man with much to be modest about. Churchill himself once called him a sheep in sheep's clothing. But don't let his quiet demeanor fool you. This man was a political revolutionary. He led one of the most radical and transformative governments in British history. His mission wasn't just to rebuild Britain, but to reshape it entirely. The Attlee government inherited a country on its knees. Food was still rationed, housing was in short supply, and industries were outdated. Yet, in just 6 years, from 1945 to 1951, they embarked on an ambitious program of national renewal that is staggering to look back on. This wasn't just about patching things up. It was about building a new Jerusalem, a fairer society for all. The cornerstone of this new society was the National Health Service, the NHS. Before 1948, healthcare in Britain was a patchwork system. If you were poor, getting sick could mean financial ruin. Attlee's health secretary, Aneurin Bevan, championed a radical idea: a health service available to everyone, rich or poor, funded by general taxation and free at the point of use. It was a monumental undertaking, fiercely opposed by many in the medical establishment. But they pushed it through. On July 5, 1948, the NHS was born, fundamentally changing the relationship between the state and its citizens forever. It remains Britain's most cherished institution to this day. But they didn't stop there. Attlee's government implemented a massive expansion of the welfare state. They introduced the National Insurance Act, providing a safety net for unemployment, sickness, and old age. They built over 1 million new homes, creating high-quality public housing for families who had lost everything in the Blitz. They also passed the 1944 Education Act, which made secondary education free for all children, opening up opportunities for social mobility on an unprecedented scale. Suddenly, a university education was no longer just the preserve of the wealthy. On the economic front, Attlee's government pursued a policy of nationalization. Key industries like coal, railways, electricity, and the Bank of England were brought under public ownership. The goal was to modernize the backbone of the British economy, improve working conditions, and ensure these vital services were run for the public good, not just for private profit. It was a bold, socialist experiment on a massive scale. And while all this was happening at home, the world stage was also changing dramatically. The British Empire, once the largest in history, was beginning to unravel. Instead of fighting to hold on, the Attlee government took a pragmatic approach. They oversaw the peaceful independence of India, Pakistan, Burma, and Ceylon. This was a hugely significant moment, marking the beginning of the end for European colonialism. While the process was complex and, in the case of India's partition, tragic, it was a necessary step towards a new world order. Attlee's government essentially managed the decline of an empire and helped lay the foundations for the modern Commonwealth. So let's compare. Churchill's legacy is defined by his magnificent leadership during 6 years of war. He saved Britain from defeat. It's an incredible achievement, and nothing can take that away from him. But Attlee's legacy is defined by his leadership during 6 years of peace. He didn't just save Britain, he rebuilt it. He fundamentally reshaped its society, its economy, and its place in the world. The NHS, the welfare state, mass council housing, decolonization, these aren't just historical footnotes. They are the pillars of modern Britain. The debates we have today about public services, the role of the state, and social inequality all trace their roots back to the decisions made by Attlee's government. His vision of a fairer, more equal society has shaped the lives of every single person in Britain for the last 75 years. So why isn't he as famous as Churchill? Part of it is personality. Churchill was a brilliant orator, a larger-than-life character who wrote his own history. Attlee was the opposite. He was a quiet manager, a chairman who got things done behind the scenes. He wasn't one for grand speeches or self-promotion. He let his government's actions speak for themselves. And speak they did. The post-war settlement created by Attlee was so popular and so successful that it became the consensus for decades. Even subsequent conservative governments, including Churchill's own when he returned to power in 1951, didn't dare to dismantle the NHS or the welfare state. Attlee's revolution had become the new normal. So, when we ask who was Britain's greatest leader, it really depends on what you value. Do you value the leader who wins the war, or the one who wins the peace? The one who saves the nation from an external threat, or the one who saves it from internal poverty and inequality? Churchill's leadership was heroic and essential for survival. But Clement Attlee's leadership was visionary and transformative. He didn't just lead Britain through a crisis. He gave it a new soul. A quiet man who made a very loud impact on history. Perhaps it's time we gave this sheep in sheep's clothing the recognition he truly deserves. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this interesting, let me know in the comments who you think is Britain's greatest leader. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into history. See you next time.